I've not turned that off. I'm thinking, oh, that's nice music. Hello everybody. Hello, world of YouTube. Well, it's been a while, hasn't it? Please let me know that you can hear me. I'm waiting for the messages to come in. I'm always suspicious when we first start and nobody's like, yeah, everything's fine, we can hear you. Oh, good. Thank you, DJ. Right, there we go. Good evening, everybody. So, thank you very much for joining us back on YouTube again. Kind of thought we'd better get our finger out. It's February, which we failed at doing one in January, so, oh well. Happy new month. Cool. All right, excellent. Everyone can hear. That's fantastic. So yeah, welcome back. So I kind of wanted to just do. This is a fairly. It's going to be a fairly chilled out demo. It's not going to be anything major. Obviously, I will explain what I'm doing as I go along, but I'm not going to go through absolutely everything in great detail because I've missed you guys and I want to be able to try and keep up with the chat. I'm going to be doing a freehand sphere. So this is what we're going to be doing. I showed this on Facebook the other day and Instagram. It's something I've been playing with for a while, and sort of I've been making all sorts of blanks, and I've been doing quite a lot of resin courses recently, and this was just something that came to me, and I actually started having a play with it whilst I was on one of the lessons, and cast one of these and thought that's really cool. So this is with my Ethereal Pigments, and it's basically a false burr, and it's got lots of different colour shifts in it, which the camera is going to struggle to pick up, to be dead straight. It's kind of a pinky to, there's pinks, there's greens, there's golds in there. If I turn it upside down, yeah, it's only really picking up the pinks. But it really does depend on the angle that it's viewed at. So the reason that I use the ethereal ones is because they are slightly see-through, so if I put my hand up behind that, you can see my hand through it, whereas if it was a traditional burr, you would, and you can see that it's dark behind it, etc. If it was a traditional burr, or if it was the standard pigments that you usually use, you won't be able to see through it. So I kind of thought it was quite a cool concept, and it was actually it was Casper who said it looks like a hologram, and he's right, it does. It really does. So this is what we're going to be turning, and I think I'll just try and update you as we go along, really. So as I say, it's just a pretty chilled out demo, just getting back into things, saying hi to everybody, seeing what's going on with everybody else, and yeah. Oh, Frederickson, Norman, Aurora Woodcrafts. That's appropriate because the blank that we're actually turning tonight has got the colour Aurora, which is a really funky colour. It's like a green, but it also has this beautiful purple and violet on there. So if I turn it to the side, you can see some of the colours. But yeah. So yeah, appropriate name. Dawson, Mr. Wayne the Woodturner, Bob Tate, James, Klaus, Greenhaven Creations, Ian the Monkey Hanger Turner, Richard. Loads of people. Jennifer. Cool. Right, let's get started and get something done. So let me just put this to one side. Now we know what we're doing. So there's a couple of things. I have a couple of diagrams ready because I do spheres quite often for clubs. It's quite a requested demonstration. So I'm not going to turn the cup chucks tonight. I will be showing you basically a side view or a cross section of the cup chucks that we're going to be using this evening. But as I say, I'm not going to be turning them. We're just going to get on with the actual turning. And just going to get my steb centres because I had them for a lesson the other day. I forgot that I'd taken them. It's all pink to you, Steve. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay. So, when you are turning resin, I would highly suggest investing in something like a steb center or a steb center equivalent, because if you don't want to make giant holes in your blank, you will need something that will stop that from happening. So the stebs are absolutely amazing for working with resin. I use urethane resin, so this is Alumilite Clear Slow. The reason that I'm actually using this blank tonight is because it's got some little specks of silicon on the high points. Whenever you cast onto a silicon burr mould, the first couple of times you cast onto it, you can often find that it tugs a bit of the silicon off. So it's got a couple of bits of silicon in there, but really annoyingly, there's something that's got into the resin. I think it looks like almost a flake of dried resin, and it's landed smack bang in the middle on the burrs. We might be able to get it on the camera, but it's really frustrating. I don't mind the odd little bit in there because, to be honest, when they're turned, even when they're finished like glass, it's very difficult to see anything. Oh, there you go, you can see it. Can you see that bit there just sticking up? That's just I'm assuming it's a flake of dried resin. So yeah, it could have been from the mould, it could have been from the tub when I've mixed it, it could have just come out of the from around the rim of the jug from which I've poured it. But yeah, little bits, like you can often get specks of dust or little bits and pieces in there. Tiny little amounts of debris don't really bother me too much, and when it's polished up, you often can't really see it, because this has got a couple of other little bits floating in there. But that is particularly big, so we can't really use that, unfortunately. So I am going to move that out of the way, and I'm just going to draw my centres on here with a Sharpie. Now, I cast a couple more blanks this morning that have got a black false burr at the bottom. They look really good, but I only have a couple, so I don't particularly want to waste one for this, when this is definitely not going to be of much use to anybody to buy. The cost of these blanks is, because resin's gone up quite a lot, you're looking at about £40. I do try and keep the cost down as much as I can. So they're not as much as some blanks you can get, but you may be able to find them cheaper, because, as I say, I'm using quite an expensive resin. So I'm just trying to keep an eye on chat so I'm not missing stuff. Now I'm going to use traditional tools for this. So we're going to be using ball gougers. Now I don't tend to cast cylinders with a lot of blanks, because I do like the option of being able to make other things from them. If I was only going to be making spheres, then it does make sense to, or if I was going to be making, for example, a box out of the standard blanks. So if I just grab one, I can show you what I mean. So we've got this really nice apple green. I like to cast these ones in a cube, because I either turn spheres out of them, as we're doing this evening, or sometimes I'll turn a box out of it. But if I turn a box out of it, I don't always like the top to be the resin and the bottom to be the burr, or vice versa. I tend to do it on its side, and then you have a half and half box. So if we round it off that way, it gives us a slightly more interesting box. So that's why I do like casting in cubes. So it is a little bit more wasteful material wise, but it does give us a few more options. These are some of the blanks that I've been casting with the black base. Again, this has got the pigments in there. This has got the chameleon pigments. This has got a new chameleon pigment, which is actually, it's just coming out today. So I will be sharing a discount code with you fairly soon, because I've been waiting for this pigment for absolutely ages, and it's really, really nice. It's got lots of colour in it, so you'll have to just stay tuned for that. Alright, so let's get cracking. I'm going to plug in, and we'll make this into a cylinder. I'm just trying to I'm not being rude, I keep trying to read some of the chat because I haven't spoken to you guys for absolutely ages. So, oh, that's a good question, Steve. Who's managing to come to Newark? So Newark show is next month now. It's in March. It's the 8th and 9th? Yeah, I think it's the 8th and 9th. It's the Friday and Saturday anyway, whichever date's closest to those, at the Newark Showground. So it's a nice little show, actually. It's sort of like Harrogate, but a little bit calmer, and you get to actually speak to people and see people a little bit more, and you can ask questions about things. It's just a little bit more relaxed, and I do like Newark. Right, I'm putting the respirator on, so the sound is going to change slightly once it's finished whistling and singing tunes, so you will be able to hear the air a little bit. So there's nothing I can do about that, I'm afraid. Oh, Kev's here. I'm very glad that you're here, Kev, because Kev posted on the Facebook page that you were going to be coming and you were having a Chinese, and I was so jealous. So, Kev's sat having his Chinese. At least you're offering your prawn crackers around, though. Should be careful saying things like that. Right, guys. So we're going to start out at a sensible speed. I'm on the top belt. Probably going to get this up to about 1,000 RPM just initially. I have to be careful because Casper now wears shorts a lot, so we're getting a bit of leg. What kind of show has this become? But you're going to get shot blasted. We need some kind of shield up, because this is going to... I'll have to try and go that way. I'll aim that way. I'll aim the other way. Eh? Once I've got this bit done, it's not so bad, but your legs will just be sandblasted. The only trouble with going that way is it hurts my hand. Oh, Mark's got beer and pizza. I don't like pizza though, Mark. It's like one of the most foul food stuffs on the planet. I really, really don't like it. I'm probably one of few who doesn't like pizza. Oh, Tom's going to Newark. Andy's going to Newark. Frederick, yes, I might be going to Denmark again, to Renee's. So he asked me about... Oh, what was the date? I can't remember the... I think it might have been the 31st of August and the 1st of September. He's doing a summer show. And I think he's getting Martin over as well, Martin Saban-Smith from Hampshire Sheen. So, possibly, because that was really good fun. I'll have to brush up on my Danish again. Wurzel, you've just had pizza for tea. Oh no, be upsetting people. Right, hopefully I don't have to go too much to the headstock end now. Yeah, we're nearly round. We're nearly trued up. So this method of turning spheres is the same whether I'm doing resin or wood. You want to get it to only just a cylinder. You don't want to be taking loads and loads of bulk off it, because you need to preserve as much as you can. Otherwise, you'll end up with a very small sphere. So maximise your turning as much as possible. By the way, Frederick, I haven't forgotten about those patches. I just can't find anybody to make any at the moment, so please tell Benny that as soon as I get some, they will be on their way to you guys. Right, we can't be far off a cylinder there. Let's get the speed up a little bit more. So I'd crept that up to 1400. I'm going to get it up to about 2000 now. Resin really responds well to being turned fast. And by that I mean revolving quickly on the lathe. I don't mean moving the tool quickly across the surface of it. You want it a high speed but slow, gentle cuts. Right, we are very, very close to a cylinder now. Right. So, the only thing I mark out when I do a sphere, we've got a little bit of a flat spot there. Not really too bothered about that. We can live with that. The only thing I mark out now is the centre line. So this is roughly a 3-inch cubed. Lengthwise it'll be slightly longer because I try and cast my cube blanks slightly taller, so they're not actually cubes. They're normally about 3 1/4 inch, because then if you don't have stab centres, it just allows that little bit extra. So let me just get my pen. So let's have a look. Now it's slightly on a bit of a slant is this end, which is sort of throwing my eye out. But I kind of want the hologram quite central. I try and do these blocks kind of 50-50. If I'm doing a false burr, I make it slightly less in the base, but these work really well with the hologram effect slap bang in the middle, because then you get the maximum effect from it. So once we've marked out the centre, we're going to start rounding this off. You don't want to aim to try and get a sphere as quickly as possible, because if you do that, it's counteractive. You'll find that you won't get it, and then you'll start taking more and more material off. So what you want to do with this first one is turn it to kind of a rugby ball. You're going for a lemon shape almost. So we're going to stick to the ball gouge. I'm using a 3/8 ball gouge. Nice gentle cuts all the time, nice and steady away. You can't rip into it like it's timber. If this was a spindle blank, you'd be able to take this down in 4 or 5 cuts, if that, and if you're a skew chisel user, then you might even be quicker. But resin does not like being turned aggressively. It will just, it'll shatter pieces out of it, and they can be quite deep. So the joys of turning resin. Ooh, Ian likes making his pizza from scratch. Now that is actually an exception. I can eat pizza if it's been homemade. I don't really like bought pizzas. Right, toothbrush. Let me just go and grab one. This tip is not mine. This was given to me after a video that I'd put up. And if you get a toothbrush, all these little strands, when the lathe is on, will break up, but you must hold it underneath. Imagine you're standing. Don't hold it on top because it'll push the toothbrush towards you. And if there's not enough room to fit the toothbrush there safely, then don't do it. But all it's doing is breaking down the fibres, basically, so that they'll come away. and not be a massive lump. Right. We'll continue our quest of a lemon. Hello, Roy's the boy. Thank you. I'm glad that the cameras are nice and clear and the sound's good. Do, 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 do. So nice and steady, and I'm just working down to more or less the diameter of just a bit higher than the diameter of the stem centre, and just getting rid of that corner. But we don't want to touch that centre line. Stay away from the centre line. That is really important that we keep that on. Back onto the toothbrush. And now we're going to do the headstock side. Now this one is a little bit more difficult to clear because I use the stem centre in the chuck. So it's a proper little stubby stem centre to put in the chuck. As soon as that starts wrapping around between the chuck and the piece of resin, we've only got about an inch clearance, and I have snapped toothbrushes putting it in there because it can sometimes get caught on the chuck jaws. So just be careful where you do use that toothbrush method. Right, I tell you what, I'm going to just take quite a heavy cut now, and I'm just going to show you what does happen. My tool's a little bit on the blunt side, so if I take a heavy cut here, I'm hoping that we might be able to show you just what happens. I look like a blooming snowman. Look at this state of me. Ta-da! Ugh. So I'm hoping that we might yeah, there we go. I should have done it the other way around really, so that you could see it on the other camera. But this sort of shattering is what happens when you cut too harshly. On the other side we haven't really got anything, it's fairly smooth, but that is from taking heavy cuts, and if you take really heavy cuts then it's a little bit of a problem. So anyway, right, we'll carry on. I may have to just go and sharpen this in a second. I'll tell you what I will do. This is something that I often do with spheres anyway. It's a really good idea to turn them round. And what I mean by that is just flip them 180 and put headstock to tailstock, tailstock to headstock, because you often find that you favour one side over another, and it will be, it's very unlikely you'll get a very even rugby ball shape. So normally I've got it a lot further at this stage, but the first thing I do is turn it round. The reason I'm doing it this way is so that I can show you this problem that it causes a little bit better, and I'm turning towards the camera then so you can see. Now it does help, I have to admit, it does help if you have the same size stebs for doing that, so hopefully you'll be able to get a better shot of that. Right, I'm going to try and catch up with the chat a second, guys, actually. So I'm going to continue cutting this. Right, that's more like it. Let's have a look at that. Pardon? Yeah. Just show that. Can we show that? So that is just from lazy cutting and pressing too hard, and because the tool is blunt. Yeah, I'm just going to sharpen this. Steve is absolutely right. Resin is not nice stuff. Whether you're casting it or whether you're turning it, you want to make sure that you have a mask on. And preferably you want both a gas filter and a particle filter. Now in fact I need to put some gas filters on this again. I used them up, but I do normally wear gas filters on this most of the time because I'm casting and turning this stuff so often that it just makes sense. But even those that say that they don't have VOCs and things like that, which stands for volatile organic compounds, there's all sorts of other horrible things in resin and you don't want to be breathing it in. It's actually quite irresponsible that some of these companies are marketing their resins as being safe and all this, because they're not. So do your own research, have a look at some of the other things that's in there and make your own mind up, basically. Right, so this is not even at all, and the reason that and what I want to show you with this is it doesn't matter if you're not even at this stage. So don't think that you've got to have like perfect curve each way. You can see from the overhead camera that I've kind of got quite a, that's not too bad a curve, but that's quite a slow curve. It's quite a gentle curve. It's not going to matter at all in a second. So at this stage we're going to take the sphere out. Now that shattering that I've caused is actually a bit of a problem, because it's a little bit more than it should be. That's me being slack. Right. So I'm now going to put, this is my old centre. I often use this one, and if anybody's ever been on a lesson with me, you'll see me use these. This is a cup chuck arbor from Paul Howard, which is now available from Hope Woodturning. Paul designed these for putting into your tailstock, and it's just got a double bearing on there, and you can make anything you want. So it's not just useful for spheres, isn't this? It's useful for all sorts. But we're going to use a cup chuck over the top of this, and I'll show you the diagrams of these cup chucks in a second. I'm not going to use this one though. I am actually going to use my very old revolving centre. The reason I like this one is because it's got that parallel area that we can put something over the top if we get it on the top camera, and then it's got an area that it can butt up against. So this is my kind of favourite one to use. It works really nicely. So we need to back that off a bit. Need a bit more room. Can't find anything in this sea of resin. And then I'm going to put another cup chuck in here. So I've got these cross-sectional diagrams just to explain the cup chucks, because like I say, I'm not going to turn those this evening. And that leads me on to say something else in a second. So we have a diagram here which shows the cup chuck that's going in the headstock. So the one that I've put into the chuck, you've basically got a spigot or a tenon. This is just a piece of scrap wood. This was actually 3-inch. The one in the tailstock was from 2-inch. It doesn't matter. You just want to round it off slightly, and then you put in a little ledge into this for an O-ring to sit. So a silicone O-ring is just going to sit into that little ledge. So I round it off, and then I cut in with a straight edge parting tool, so it's perfectly going to seat that O-ring in. You don't want to squash it, and you don't want it to be too big. If you want it to remain a perfect circle so that it will hold your sphere as accurately as possible. And then I just take the back away. The reason that we take the back away, as it says on the diagram, you just need to relieve the back so that the sphere doesn't sit against the back here instead of on the O-ring. So that is the headstock one. The tailstock one is exactly the same, but it needs a recess in it to put it over either an arbor or a centre that's got parallel sides on it. The reason that I point out the parallel sides, have I got a centre here that doesn't have one? Let's have a look. I'm not sure I do actually. Yes, I do. So this, I think that this centre is the one that came with this lathe. I'm pretty sure it is. I'll just take that off a second. It's massive, and it's got a really long conical area with no parallel sides apart from here. That is a lot of cup chuck you're going to have to make to cover that. So that's not really overly suitable. But this one's fab. So I tend to turn this one by putting it between centres, putting a tenon on each end, put it into the chuck to drill out the back area, turn it round, and then you're just making exactly the same that you've already got in the headstock. You're just repeating it. So those are the cup chucks, guys. So I'm hoping that that makes sense for you. So once you've got your cup chucks made, you can then put your spear or your rugby ball between the centres again. So this is why we need the centre line. We're going to try and get that as central as possible. I'm going to wind the tailstock out quite a bit. The quill on this is designed so that it is sturdy and you can wind it out a lot. So I do tend to use it for instances like this so I can get the tool rest nice and close. So what I'm looking for is I'm going to slowly turn it, and I want to make sure that this centre line is kind of as straight as possible. And the way that I work doing these spheres is, if I turn that to the camera now, we've got a template, because this is already a perfect circle. We've turned a cylinder, so it's a perfect circle. As this turns in the cup chucks, it's going to show that circle area as like a solid area within the overall image that it creates. So it creates like a ghost image. So when we turn this on, let me just lock that off a bit more. When we turn this on, and we're going to keep the speed relatively high, so we want to start about 1500 on this. It's normally pretty good to show what we can see is that overhead camera. I'm just going to get a piece of black card and see if that will highlight it any further. So the camera always obscures it a little bit because it's almost making it look like it's turning a lot more slowly than it is, but you should be able to see that there's a sort of solid circle and then there's areas that are a lot more see-through. That ghost image we're going to now turn through. So we're going to aim to turn through that ghost image so that we're going to get back to that circle. And that is all we're going to do. Now this is the worst of the 3 turns, because you've got quite a lot of resin sticking out here, there and everywhere, because it was a rugby ball shape. So it's quite out of true. So you want to keep your speed up. You feel like you don't. You feel like you want to turn the speed down with this, but you're more likely to get a snag and for it to pull it out of these centres if you're going slowly. So do keep your speed nice and high. Keep taking gentle cuts. The tool's sharp. We didn't sharpen it that long ago, so it's still got a decent edge on there. And the other thing is, don't try and turn all the way down to the cup chucks. Even though you can see that it's a bit lumpy bumpy, don't worry about that, because the chances are if you start trying to turn right down to those cup chucks, you're going to start overreaching with the tool. And it's only being held by 2 silicone O-rings. So if you put unnecessary pressure onto this sphere because you're pushing too hard with the tool or you're trying too hard with it, etc., then the chances are it will just pull it out of the cup chucks. I've had them come out. It's not like you get hurt by anything. I mean, there's always the possibility of that when we turn anyway, But normally it kind of spins and it ends up on the floor, but it tears the O-rings, so you then have to turn the O-rings out and put new O-rings in. So it's a bit of a pain. So you just make life easy for yourself and just go nice and steady. Okay, so we've got a couple of shoulders. I'm stopping it to have a look and see if I'm anywhere near this centre line, which we're not at the moment, so we can carry on a little bit more, take a little bit more off, and then we can start to turn it. Roy's the boy. Could you put some centre lines on the cup chucks to get a close guide? Yeah, that is not a bad idea. If you got some centre lines across there, then you got something to line it up with. That is not a bad idea at all, Roy. Yeah. Anything that helps you visually, then that's great, because often when you put it between these cup chucks, you'll find that at this stage you've turned part of the centre line off and the other half is still there, which means you kind of sat it low or sat it high between the two cup chucks. This is actually one of the most accurate I've been. We're not quite touching, but we're almost touching the centre line there, and we're a little bit further off on this side, so I am still a little bit out, but not enough to worry about. So yeah, anything that will help you with that, that's fine. I am not a fan of doing lots and lots of lines on here and working to those lines, because I personally find too many visuals confusing. That's just the way that I work. So I find less is more. The key to turning a successful sphere is turning it very, very often and taking very few cuts each time. The more you turn it and take smaller cuts and fewer cuts and keep turning it, you're more likely to get a sphere, and actually more efficiently than trying to race to get it to a sphere. So for example, there's loads needs to come off this tailstock end on this sphere. If we go to the top camera, you know, it's almost looks like a cube still, like a rounded cube. But I'm not going to try and take those off at this angle, because I am in an awkward position because of the tailstock. I am turning right-handed, I don't turn left-handed, so I can't quite get round that corner safely, so I'm just going to turn it. So that's the next thing we're going to do. So I tend to go for something a bit of a diagonal. So I'm staying on centre line at the moment just to try and knock those off. So I've just adjusted the centre line. We'll get that fired up, and straight away I can see that we've got a new ghost image and we've got a new solid circle that we know to work down towards. And you've got to use your gut a little bit with spheres. They're a really, really good exercise for hand-eye coordination, because you've got to look at that horizon when you're turning them. So I'm looking at the top of the piece, I'm not looking where the tool is touching. I can't see anything going on apart from, oh yeah, it's cutting. That is not helpful in this situation. We're trying to look at the top of it to see that shape developing. So again, I'm struggling to get round that corner, so let's move it so it's more accessible. So now I'm just going to start going random with my placement. Now another thing to point out at this stage is if you put it between centres and fire it up, and you've got a massive ghost image after you've turned it a couple of times, just stop and reseat it, because it doesn't mean that you've got it right each time you've put it in there. It's really, really easy to have it misaligned. So just check it. Just wind out the tailstock and just double check it. And especially after you've sort of had 4 or 5 orientations, and removed material for 4 or 5 orientations. So we still haven't touched that centre line yet, so we still got quite a long way to go. So let's go this way. Stop and turn it. And you'll find that you're going to start taking more and more off each time, or you should find that you're taking more and more, less and less off each time. Now I would like to start removing or see some of those original centre lines coming away now, because really they should have gone by now, but I'm not taking enough material off, I don't think. Stop and turn. Mr. Dews, it would not be down to 3mm by now if you were doing it. Just, you got to be patient, man. Right, so we got quite a wobble on with this one. Yeah, you can see it in the top camera. I'm not happy about that. So I'm just going to back it off and reseat it. Now if it's still off after we've reseated it, I'm going to take a little bit off this, but I'm not convinced. Sometimes if it's really bad and I can't get it to sit better, I will actually completely change the orientation of it, but there is a little bit of a bump on there that I want to get rid of. So I'm only taking a light cut. I'm not removing loads of material. I'm not actually going all the way down to that sphere through the ghost image, because this is where your gut instinct sort of kicks in. You just think, yeah, it's not right, that. It's just something is not right about that. So that, there is a lumpy area here. So that should be quite out of true. Yeah. So this one I am going to go through. That ghost image. And all I can say is just keep turning it and keep taking that little bit off each time. And keep watching the horizon as you're turning it, and you will get through. And you'll get it closer and closer to being a sphere. So I've had to take quite a bit off there, and as soon as you start having to take quite a bit off, you start to see areas developing that you then need to turn it and get to. So we've got a sharp edge there and there, they need to go. So we've got one there and one in the other direction. So you just gotta, yeah, they are enjoyable. Just enjoy what you're doing. Steady away. So I said at one point, I'm not going to go through absolutely everything with this demo, and that is because we are working on a library of videos. Some of them short, some of them long, some of them full projects, some of them little bits and pieces like making cup chucks and things like that. And we're working on it for Team Tiny. Now I would like to thank everybody who commented on my Facebook post. I believe it was last week, it might have been the week before. Time sort of does its own thing here. But I just wanted to thank everybody, because it was clearly unanimous that the Team Tiny people who were interested in joining Team Tiny again would rather have it run via the website, and so that is what's going to happen. I have got unlimited video storage on my website, so we are working on creating a catalogue of things. So as I say, there'll be projects, there'll be skills, there'll be little bits and pieces on there for people to just log in and use whenever they want. Cost wise, we're still working it out. We think it's going to be based around $4.99 a month. I will still be doing lives on YouTube, and like this one tonight, it will stay up for a week and then it will disappear, and probably be edited, or there will be a similar replacement put into the Team Tiny archives for people to access should they wish. So that is the plan. Now we do not have a time frame for getting that up, because we are working on it at the moment. We have a lot going on, so we are just, as I say, trying to get things up and running. We might do the odd Team Tiny sort of live catch-up kind of thing, more a social, to be honest, instead of any kind of demonstration. But they won't quite be as often as they have been before, just because I have got so much work on this year with demos, etc., that I don't want to make promises that I'm going to do it on every Tuesday, or the fourth Friday of the month or something, because I won't be able to maintain that. So I'm trying to be as realistic and as upfront as possible with it. As soon as it's launched, it would be really nice if we could get it launched towards the end of February, beginning of March, but as I say, I don't want to rush into it until there is some content on there for you to enjoy. But I'll probably do a YouTube to announce it, and I'll put all the details, etc., on Facebook, and of course the information will be on the website as well. So that is the update for Team Tiny. So you can. So yeah, back to the project. Yes, you can use carbides to cut resin. It responds very, very well to being cut by carbides because they are nice and sharp, but you have still got to be gentle with them. So think about your angle of approach and what type of cutter you're using. If you're using a cupped cutter, they are quite aggressive, so you need to use them at 45 degrees or even less. You need to kind of close it off even less. The closer you use it to being completely flat, the more aggressive it is, and you can really cause some massive damage. In fact, let me see if I've got my disaster piece still. Yes, I do. So this was one that I was turning, with a sphere jig which has a carbide cutter on it, but it's a cup cutter. And I wasn't thinking. It was not the fault of the cutter, it was 100% operator error. With the sphere jigs, you have to put timber on each side because you need plenty of room for it to swing round. And basically I turned one side, this was the tailstock side, nice and smooth, nice easy cuts, and you work from the centre point, which is your widest point back, so really, really nice cuts. And I hadn't hardly done anything on this side, and I just swung the cutter back round and it just touched the resin and it took that massive chunk out of it, and then continued to cut and just dug in here and scared the life out of me. Well, it ripped it out of the lathe, it snapped off the other tenon that was glued onto here, the sacrificial tenon, and it went flying. So just be careful, but it's only the same with any tool. You can cause any kind of damage with any kind of tool. But yes, carbides you can use with resin. Right. That's very kind of you to offer, Steve. Yeah, if I'm aware you could come and cover. Yeah. It's heavy as this lathe, you know. Right, so after you've turned it a few times and you're happy with where you're at, now we need to do sanding. It's the same with wooden spheres. There's a lot of sanding involved because you've turned the piece from lots of directions, so you're going to get lots of tear out. In this case, we've got that area that I've turned really badly. In fact, I might drop down. This is 120, but with resin, I will sometimes drop down to 80 grit. Let me just go and find some. This is just to save time as well. There we go. So I've got all the dust extraction going. I've dropped down to 80 because those are quite large facets that we've chipped out of there. And just be careful when you are sanding with something as aggressive as 80, because you can very quickly start to reshape the piece very, very quickly, especially if it's solid resin, because resin sands pretty easily. Ooh, that's not seated very well. It's not seated very well. Sometimes it's that tailstock part. That's better. Yes, you can definitely wet sand resin hue. Yeah. If you wanted to go through some of the polishing papers, you can go through those. I like to buff it on the wheel because it's nice and quick. So once I've done my sanding process, I will go on to the buffing wheels, which you'll see. So I just need to make sure I've got rid of all that nasty chipping. Gavin, yeah. You got to have 80 grit. Everybody's got 80 grit. It's very useful stuff. The thing is that I could stand there with 120 grit and sand and sand and sand for ages, and all it'll do is it'll heat the resin up, it'll make the sandpaper, the abrasive hot, and it'll just achieve what you can achieve with a lower grit a lot slower. And I am not the most patient person in all the world, so I'd rather just be efficient, to be dead honest, and this is an efficient way of doing it. So it's the same when I'm sanding anything. I'd rather drop down to a lower grit and spend less time sanding, because you do spend less time sanding if you start at a lower grit, unless you've got exceptionally good off the tool finish. So for spindle work, if you're using a skew chisel, yeah, you might not need to start with 120, 180, maybe not even 240 grit, but unless your tool work is that good, don't be a sanding snob. I used to be. Right, that is a bit of a slightly dodgy shape. So at this stage now, when you're sanding it and you've smoothed it off, you'll start to see where you might need to go back with the tool. So I can see that it could do with a little bit more work really, but for the sake of moving this on, we will continue. So now I've got rid of those chipped areas, I'm going in with a 120 grit. Because we've done a lot of work with the 80 grit, you find that you don't really need to do that much with the others. So I've turned it 5 or 6 times with the 80 grit. This might only need about 3 turns, and we just got to keep changing it so that all the areas get sanded and we don't turn it back into a rugby ball shape. Roy's the boy's showing off, he ain't got 80 grit. You're better than I am then, Roy. Right, up to 180. So all we're doing now is taking out the sanding marks from the previous grit. And that is it's a relatively quick process, really. Pardon? Yeah, you get it designed, Dan. It is, a lot of it is snobbery though, isn't it? Let's face it. You feel that you're not quite as, you know, you're not as an adequate a turner if you're having to start with 80 grit. That's how I used to feel. I hadn't done a good job, but you have got to look at these things with efficiency in mind. It's the one we need, like radio mics or something, because when I have this on, I can't hear a word that Casper's saying to me, because I've got a cam vac under the lathe on, I've got my respirator on, and we've got a microclean filter on, and it's just deafening in here. So if he says something, I'm just like, what? So the other thing that I was going to bring up is, and I have already mentioned it, I have a couple of new colours which I've just put on the website this evening. So we've got a colour called Elixir, which is just, it's gorgeous. It's very, very purpley, of course, with a kind of green, gold, blue colour shift. It's a stunning colour. And I've been waiting to get these launched for a while. I've got a new ethereal pigment and matching flake, which the pigment is called Dark Matter and the flake is called Spectra. And I haven't got Spectra out just yet, the flake, because I'm waiting for the stickers to come for it. And then we've got quite an unusual chameleon pigment, actually. It's a really, really dark one. It's called Blood Magic, and it's very, very dark red. It's a really deep reddy brown, and it colour shifts to black, so it's not bright at all, isn't this one? So yeah, it doesn't follow the same sort of vividness that the others do, but it's still an interesting colour. I'm not sure if that one's just going to be a limited edition one or not yet, because for some reason it was crazy expensive. And then I've got a flake out, which is actually, it's a metallic effect flake. It's not a metal flake, so it's not like your metal leaf flakes. It's a metallic effect flake. Now, it's absolutely brand new, is this, and it's a silver, and it is the most fantastic silver. I'll show you some on a burr in a second, because it's pretty cool. But they are launching today, unofficially. So you guys on here are going to be the first to know about them, and then they'll go out tomorrow on the website. On Facebook. Unless I can get the post done this evening. But we're going to have a little discount code which will give you 10% off any of the colours across the range, whether they're chameleon powders or flakes, or whether they're the ethereal ones, and the new ones are included as well. So I will show you the discount code in a second. Right, so we're just going on to the 600 grit now, so I've worked right through to this final grit. And then we can move on to polishing, which is the exciting bit, really. So, yeah, we're doing a good enough job. All you want to be making sure at this stage, with this being the last grit for your abrasives, you want to make sure that it's taken out all those sanding lines. If you want, you can then do another stage. So if you don't have buffing wheels, etc., let me turn those off. If you don't have buffing wheels, you can use a different product. So you can use something like the True Grit series. Let me just grab my cloths. I cut a load of cloths. Where did I put them? Oh yeah, away in there. So your abrasive pastes are really, really good for using on resins. So this is a bit of safety cloth, and I'm going to stick some of the True Grit original on to begin with. So use the black tub first, and it'll just help to reduce the amount of buffing you need to do. You can use this as your final finish. If you are going to use these as your final finish, then I would suggest that you use the white tub as well, the Superfine. So just give that a bit of a polish, and then we'll move that again. So we need to repeat it once we've polished this bit, so we get all of it covered. So wipe it on with the lathe stationery. And the nice thing about, even if you are going to be buffing them on the wheel, the nice thing to do about with this is if you do give it a polish with something like this on the lathe, you can start to see if you've missed anything or if there's any issues, and it gives you the opportunity to sort it out now, maybe going back to sanding without having to have taken everything off to put your buffing wheels on and put them back on again. So that is the standard one. This is the Superfine. And they do give you a really, really nice finish. So you've got quite a few options with these. You've got your True Grit range. If you still have Yorkshire Grit, then you can use the Yorkshire Grit to do this. Chestnut, I've cut and polished, and then they have the burnishing cream. So there's lots and lots of options, and it really does bring it up nicely. So I kind of go on reflections, and we've got some pretty decent reflections going on in there. But I am going to take it a stage further now. So we're going to go on to the buffing tree. So I use the buffing tree for the smaller items. So I'm actually going to continue with this centre. And the reason I use the buffing tree is because we've got all three compounds in one place. We're not having to change wheels. It's not too essential. If you get used to these processes, you'll learn how much sanding that you need to do, etc, etc, and you'll think, yeah, I'm at the stage now I can safely move on to the buffing tree, and you can do that. And as long as you are not shy with your compounds on the buffing tree itself, you'll find that you don't need to keep changing wheels. So if you've got a standard buffing wheel set up instead of the tree, then yeah, you just don't be shy with it. So I am using some products on here called Menzerna. I have got these on the website. I think I have a buffing tree left, but I might only have one. I do still need to sort some stuff out with Chestnut, so I won't be getting an order from Chestnut for a little while, because I'm I'm actually away next week in Germany, so that is not an invitation for you to come up, Steve, because I'm afraid the lathe will still be manned because Casper's going to be here. Sorry. But yeah, so let's have a look. So I am away next week, so any orders that get put in, guys, if you need them urgently, you're better off getting them in tomorrow because I leave on Sunday. Right, we use this at 1500 RPM. Hold on tight, because if you don't, it will launch this across the floor, as Dan and Katie, if those guys are on, can confirm, because we had one or two launched spheres last week on the lesson. So this is where you benefit from having a nice bright light, so you can see the reflection of the light on the surface of the resin, and you should be able to see whether or not it's removing the scratches. So these buffing trees, you use them at 1500 RPM, no more, no less. Nice firm pressure. So just work your way around as methodically as you can. Got a little bit of a mark on there, and don't be shy with the compound. As I've already said, I never really dress these mops. I'm not bothered if there's a build-up of compound on there, because I find that you need a fair bit for it to actually do its job. So the build-up's not problematic. Oh, you can really see that floaty bit now. It's so annoying because it's such a nice colour. Is this sort of is the middle of this? It's so frustrating. This middle one is kind of the magic one, because this is one that shows you anything that you've missed. So if you've got any slight tooling marks that you've missed, or any sanding marks that you've missed, that middle one will show it up. And then this is what the beauty of the buffing trees are. You can jump up and down the grits as you need to. You're not having to worry about changing wheels. So I do like to use this buffing tree on anything less than 3 inch, basically. If it's more than that, you're going to start hitting the other wheels as you go along. Last compound. So this one really brings it up like glass. Now, one thing I will mention is, if you do make anything with resin, and especially if it's clear like this, if you're selling it, it's a good idea to put a little care sheet in with it, because if somebody was to put this on the windowsill, the UV will degrade the resin and it will yellow quite quickly. A lot of resins have UV retarders in them these days, but you cannot stop it completely. So even ones that have got special, treatments in, etc., will eventually yellow in time. It is just a standard thing. Just the same with wood. It changes the colour of timber. It has that effect on resin. So I will take this out and I will show you the sphere, and you'll see the floaty bit, which is so annoying because it's so nice. So that is our sphere. This one, as I say, is coloured with Aurora, so you can see it much better now. So you've got that kind of really, really stunning pinky purple, and the main colour to it is the kind of green. So all the ethereal range they are also chameleon, and yeah, can you see the floaty bit? There we go. So frustrating that happens smack bang in the middle. So hence why I have turned it. So yeah. So I'm just going to take this off a second and I'll just show you a couple of the things that we've now got. Ooh, I can hear again. There we go. So, as I say, we've got a few colours on there that are new. I have made the ethereal pigments. You can buy those individually now. So if you're wanting to have a go with these, then you can buy the individual pots. I will make the ethereal flakes available individually, but I need a little bit longer to do that because it takes quite a lot of photography to get that sorted. So the pigments are available. This is the new silver flake. So if we get that into the camera, it's kind of like almost chrome effect. It is incredibly bright silver. Now it is a flake, so you can, if you look closely, you got to look really closely though, you can kind of see the individual sort of individual flakes on there. But it is one of the best silvers that I have ever come across, and it was sent to me as a sample late last year, and I've kept having a go and testing it, and yeah, I was really impressed. So that is now available, and that is on the site. The two new colours, Elixir and Blood Magic, are on there, and the new ethereal colour, Dark Matter, is on there as well, which is this kind of, it's a really cool kind of ultraviolet to blue colour shift is that one, and it's incredibly fine powder. All the ethereal ones look awesome in resin as well, but I've lost the sphere that I turned with one of those. I promised you a discount code, so there is the discount code, and that will give you 10% off. I've just realised that I only changed part of that thing, so ignore the launch 10, but it will give you 10% off. So that is the code Sparkle. If you put that in at checkout, it'll give you 10% off any of the ethereal or chameleon ranges, and that includes the bumper packs as well. One word of warning, guys, the packs are going to be going up in price once I am back from Germany, possibly before my supplier I really annoyingly came and gave me quite a price hike in January. So I'm keeping the original pots or the individual pots the same price, but the packs are going to go up a little bit because I just cannot cover that. It won't be by much, it'll be £2 or £3 or something, but at this moment in time I have still got old stock, so I am not putting the prices up until I've kind of worked through that. And yeah, I've got a new order on its way, which is of the that is going to be the higher price. So as soon as this lot goes, it will be going up, just to pre-warn you. So this code is active now. It will be active until I get back from Germany, so probably about a week on Sunday. Any orders that have been put in tonight or tomorrow will go out. Anything after that will have to go out a week on Monday. I will be putting up a little pop-up thing on the website, as I normally do. And for the website, that is thetinyturner.co.uk for anybody who is new here. I'm sure a lot of you already know that. But yeah, go on and have a look, and it's just in the drop down area for these bits in particular. They have a drop down area of pigments and flakes. So I'm going to turn that off because it's quite annoying. I can see it flashing away on the screen in front of me. And I'm just going to have a bit of a catch up on chat actually. Yeah, oh yeah, if you have enjoyed it, give us a thumbs up for the algorithm, seeing as YouTube doesn't know who I am anymore. Let's have a see. Oh, this looks like there's been a full-on history lesson going on. Just catching back on questions. Roy's the boy. Yes, I am at Ely. I think I'm at Ely or somewhere nearby this year. I am working on a calendar. I've just struggling to get it to talk properly to the website at the moment. So once I have figured that out, there will be a calendar of where I'm going to be. And would the system work on metal? Yes, it would. These polishers are for plastics. These specific polishers are for plastics and for soft metals. That is what they are made from. Made for. So they're for the automotive industry. So they can do both. So these should be able to polish up metals to a high shine. You'll get quite a dirty deposit on the wheels when you're polishing metal. It'll all go grey, but yeah, it should work. Let me just make sure I haven't missed any more questions. Weird Bigfoot. Don't mention Yorkshire because Andy's here and he lives in Goole just over the border. Oh, never mind. We can't all live in Yorkshire. I'm just making sure I haven't missed any questions. Gavin, I was using Abranet. I always use Abranet for resin because it's really easy to clear, so you just give it a flick and it drops out. If you were to use sandpaper or cloth backed or anything like that, it can really clog up quite quickly, whereas the mesh doesn't. It's just a personal preference, is that. I think we've done the wet sanding. Yeah, I'm sorry. Oh, there was one there. Oh, yeah, we got that one. I think I'm caught up with the chat, so it's ages since I've done one, so I'm not used to turning and keeping an eye on it. So sorry about that, guys. But yeah, thank you for watching. I am really enjoying making these. So there's a few of these on the website at the moment of the blanks themselves. If anybody wants to have a go without having to get all the setup of the casting stuff, and they don't have floaty bits in them. Oh, it just annoys me so much, does that. That is something else that I am going to be bringing up at some point. I have got so much stuff that I have demoed and part turned and all sorts of things, and I need to figure out what I can do with it all before I put it all on the fire. So suggestions are welcome. I'm not wanting people to buy things or stuff like that. I don't really know what to do with it, but I have so many things. I have just so much stuff, and I really don't know what to do with it. So yeah, and this is one of them because it's not perfect, so I can't sell it. Yeah, everything is going up, unfortunately. Thank you very much for linking everything. I appreciate that, Steve. That's really cool. Cool. Right then, guys, I'll leave you to it. I'm sorry that this is a super short one because normally we're on for 2.5 hours, so it's really weird being done so quickly. But yeah, it was more of a little bit of something, a little bit of an update. I apologise to anybody who was rewatching this because you're probably going to find it super boring. But it will be gone in a week, so make the most of it. And yeah, hopefully this should be now the start of things improving and new things happening along the way. So stay tuned. Follow, keep an eye on the Facebook page. I will try and put some more news updates on. The feed goes onto the website anyway, but I'll try and put some bits and pieces up on there. And yeah, see you all soon, guys. The hand is back. Cool. Right, take care, everybody. See you all soon. Thank you for watching.